Hello and welcome. This is Playing Favorites. I'm Paul.
I'm Justin. This is our March bonus episode on
Hello.
April 1st. April Fools!
Gotcha. And we're here to talk about a plucky little monster that could.
I really don't think you can put the word plucky in the word into this
He
movie.
is. He's got,
Well, maybe
he starts out really small, but
yeah.
he's got big dreams of destroying humanity. And by,
I don't think that's
by
his dream.
gone, he
Yeah. Anyways,
certainly tries.
but
We're
yes,
talking about Shin Godzilla,
yes. So all of our
directed by.
all of our Patreon supporters, we're doing this lovely episode because you know what? A lot of Godzilla talk, and we wanted to watch a good
Mhm.
Godzilla movie.
Mhm.
I have never seen it before, so it was my first time.
Yes.
Excited to
Yep.
talk about this.
Very excited. So this is from 2016. It's directed by Hideki Anno, and Shinji Higuchi also worked on the film. And these are two kind of important um, directors, people who've worked in things that we have seen, lots of stuff that we like. For example, Hideki Anno was a key part of Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, one of Studio Ghibli's more famous films, as well as a bunch of other things. And you could kind of see like his um some of his work like Evangelion like made
That's a big thing,
like
yeah.
kind of come to life in this
Oh
movie.
yeah, easily. I knew he was part of this, but like, yeah, if you didn't tell me that initially, I mean, I would have seen like I was like, oh, kind of has
There's a
that
pretty
vibe, just a little bit.
giant monster body horror stuff going on. But you were telling me about Shinji Higuchi, and like I had recognized the name, but he's also famous for a couple other things. What do you know
Yeah,
him from?
he's part of Attack on Titan, I believe,
Mm.
which is a really good anime. Which I haven't finished the series yet, but yeah, he's a big part of that, and he looks
Yep,
like he's done
yep.
other things too.
He worked
Um,
on Evangelion as well,
you
and
know,
it seems like these two working together is a pretty good mix. Um,
I just pulled up his filmography. He also was a part of the Return of Godzilla from 1984. He was an assistant special effects modeler.
oh, Return of Godzilla.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but he was a part of the Attack on Titan movie, so the live action, not the anime,
Oh, okay, okay,
not the
all right.
anime.
Well, makes sense. Makes sense for
So
what
the
he
the the,
does.
the bad version.
Okay. I haven't seen a minute of that of the live action one. I
No,
didn't even
it's
know what
this.
the Titans look like.
This is a trail. I see trailers. I vaguely
Yeah,
remember. I mean, it's an anime live action adaptation. Use your imagination.
done. Not as good as the anime. Got it. Um.
But we're
So
not
yeah,
we're not here to talk about anime. We're talking about Shin
no, but
Godzilla.
we're talking about a movie from 2016, which is in many ways much more like the original Godzilla movie than any other Godzilla movie since. It's like the 1954 Toho Godzilla movie. And I was just telling you fairly recently, I'd rewatched the original Godzilla, and it is so goddamn good, Justin. From a filmmaking perspective, like we should be watching this movie. We should have been watching this movie when we were in high school because the way they do the credits, like the technology in 54 in Japanese film is not like as good as American films, I
Sure.
guess, because they are doing the scroll of credits by hand. It
Mm.
is it's like a screen, like a black screen with white writing that someone is rolling up very slowly, you know? It is, but it like adds to the kind of like I don't know, almost like indie movie kind of vibe of the original Godzilla. And that's what I really like about this movie right off the bat. It feels like an old Godzilla movie. It feels like an original because Godzilla is not somebody you can reason with. He's not like a lovable creature that's here to help humanity and fight the bad guys. He's just a force of nature.
But
He's
that
a natural disaster walking down the streets of
in
Tokyo.
that is true. I get that, but like that's the thing about my love of Godzilla, which is nowhere near as close as your love. I mean, I think you are obsessed with Godzilla.
I like him. I'm not upset. I don't have his home phone number or anything, but
But me growing up, when I watched Godzilla, like randomly on a Saturday, I think they would have him on like random TV shows or something. And I used to love the
Mhm.
ones where he was the hero. Like I used to
Yeah,
love those ones. But you're right. He started off as this like terror to humanity. It's I mean what do you want to call it? It's like the horrors of like nuclear experimentation, like sort of a telling of that, I guess, right?
and that's exactly what like the 54 film and this one have exactly in common. It's just that this is a result of nuclear testing, right? Like nuclear testing in the Pacific,
A little different
and
though. This
that
one's more about like
awake.
waste, right? So like he's eating the waste of nuclear waste versus experimentation. So there is a little bit difference between the two.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't like they were experimenting on animals. It was they were testing nuclear weapons in the ocean,
Yep. And
and this just happened to mutate a creature. That's like the idea in
yep.
the like from 54, and that's kind of the idea here. But it is like he's been like it started slowly, and instead of like all the creatures dying, he was the only one that adapted to it
Yeah, he
and is
evolved.
actually thriving off of the like off of nuclear reaction, or like he is like a walking nuclear reactor. And it's a really important movie because of the time period too, because not long before this was the Fukushima disaster in Japan, where there
Ooh,
was like close to a meltdown, like there was a nuclear disaster, right? Like
oh, I
so there was
remember
like
that.
I
Okay.
think if I remember correctly, it was like there was like a not a typhoon, but there was some kind of weather related. It might have been like I don't know if it was a hurricane or monsoon or typhoon or whatever it was that hit Japan, and at that time it led to like almost catastrophic,
Well, I remember
situation at this plant.
there was a big thing that happened there because I think flights for Japan was like dropped in price dramatically around
Yeah.
that time because that was close to when I got married, so we were looking for honeymoon stuff to do.
Oh,
But then it
yeah.
like,
I'm
but yeah, I remember this event. But yeah, I didn't know it was connected.
jeez. No, the thing that I'm talking about, it was all right, so I'm not talking out of my ass. It was the Fukushima nuclear disaster. It was in 2011, and
Yep.
it was because of an earthquake and tsunami. All right, so I got all the natural disasters wrong, but it was I eliminated all the ones it was not. It was an earthquake and tsunami on Friday, March 11th.
Cover your bases. It's okay.
Yeah, it was just a tornado, hurricane, swarm of bees.
Volcano, why not? Alien invasion, who knows?
Mhm. So there was a like radiation released into the atmosphere, but the thing that like it wasn't just like, oh, there was a nuclear disaster, let's make a Godzilla movie. It was more about the government the Japanese government's reaction to it, and their kind of like arcane way of
Mm-hmm.
doing things. Like it was kind of like dragging their feet, like, well, who has the authority to make this decision? Well, then we have to go to this person, then we have
Yep.
to find somebody who has more authority, and more and more and
I
more,
mean, honestly
until it
though,
finally gets to the person who can make a decision. And even they're hesitant to pull the
yeah.
trigger. Like that's exactly what the movie parodies with the Japanese government.
What's interesting though is that I feel like you could just say that about any government. Like
True,
it's not just Japanese
true.
government. Like they even like point out like America's like kind of indecisiveness is a little bit in the movie too, right? It's
Oh, they
like
don't want like they're like, this is your problem, right? Like you got
yeah
this handled.
yeah no like we got this thing like, we're gonna help you out because it's like but we're gonna just it's interesting. What was this to start off like the first 20 minutes of the movie, right? Like
Let's go.
you don't really get much Godzilla, which I had to say, like I love. This is the thing that I like most about this movie overall is that you actually care about the humans in this movie a little bit. Like you care about them. Any
Mm-hmm.
other Godzilla I've watched, like in modern day era, like I mean I've only seen King of Monsters, which is horrific, and I hadn't watched the original Godzilla from 2014, so I don't have that as a kind of a baseline, which is close to
Yeah.
this one, right? Um, but yeah, like they spend so much time on the humans and like what their reaction is to this in the parody of the governments and stuff like that. But like it is just terror. Like it's all about the government's reaction, not like random scientist girl that's like I discovered the ancient history of ancient races and like it's like but I'm going to create a friendship with him. It's like it's more like no, there's this like crazy monster that's terrorizing the thing. We don't try to you don't try to do diplomacy with it. You don't try to yeah, you could they do speak that way. They kind of say, okay, do is this I think they like is it the department that handles like animals? Is that are they the right people? Let's bring those people in. And I love the scene where
Mhm.
the biologist. It's like I can't put my name on this because I have no evidence. Can't put my name on this because I have no evidence because like
Yep.
there's no study, there's no experimentation, so they can't give a definitive answer because they're just seeing what he's doing, which is just destroying things. And like,
Yep.
but I love like the whole beginning is just them like, yeah, what was his what his like what he's trying to do, like his actions, like what they're trying to kind of figure out his psychology, right? He's like
Yeah.
he's just walking. He's just walking.
Yeah.
That's all he's doing. He's
And
walking.
they're what I like about it is that they don't ascribe a psychology to him. They don't say like, "Oh, this is what Godzilla's thinking." They understand he's an animal, and animals are seeking to like, and he's evolving at a rapid rate. It's like, okay, well, this thing is just trying to survive, and we're a threat to it, so it's evolving. Counters to our threats. So
Mm-hmm.
if we shoot it with, if we shot it with guns in its second form, because this is like a Dragon Ball Z thing here. We're going
Yeah.
through all the forms till we get to the final form. But if in his second form he was vulnerable to bullets, in his third form he's not, and the bullets bounce off, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, okay, well then what will do that? How about one of those bunker buster bombs that they drop on him? It's like, okay, well then that's what triggers the atomic breath
Yeah.
and the atomic laser in the atomic lasers. Like it's
Yeah.
like each thing is a response to its
Well,
environment.
it's like
So it's like,
it's what Darwinism on like lightning speed, right? It's like
yes,
that's
exactly, like super fast, like in real time you're watching it
so
evolve.
honestly, I didn't know what this movie was really about. I had no. All I knew was just I see your Discord logo like anytime we go to do this,
Yes.
which is just like the image of Shin Godzilla. I see like the
Yep.
artwork for it. That's all I knew about this movie. I've seen like the other forms before. No clue it was Godzilla. No clue
Hmm.
that was actually Godzilla. I thought like when I first like when you see his second form, which honestly is ridiculous looking and very
It's
doofy.
hilarious, right?
And
Like
like I'm sitting there, I'm like like I remember Amber watches the movie with me, and she's like, "What is that?" Like, oh, that's just another monster. He's gonna fight that one. He's gonna come fight that one. That's what I thought was gonna happen. I'm just like, oh,
uh
that's not Godzilla. That's just oh yeah, it's one of the other monsters he fights. That's what it's got to be because I had no
you're setting
clue.
up the big bad guy.
Yeah, like I had no clue. Like I thought he was just gonna come up and start fighting it, and then there's just gonna be a bunch. That's what I'm used to with Godzilla movies lately. It's just like him fighting things, because that is kind of like the one of the exciting things of old Godzilla movies is him always fighting someone else. It's like I always liked that part, but yeah, it was interesting seeing evolution like in that original form, not the water one where you don't see his form really. He's like kind of a more marine like
Yeah.
creature. You only see his tail, but
Yeah,
like
and
the
or just like bubbling blood in the ocean too.
yeah,
That's a
acid
really,
blood or whatever it is.
yeah, right, a really cool
That
image.
right there is what made me think of Hideki Anno, like just the random like blood
Oh,
exploding out of things. Like I just like I don't know why because like
yeah, really it
yeah
is. You're right. And like the way that when he's changing forms, like how his body kind of like, I don't know, vibrates or like bubbles. Like
yep
it's very unsettling the way he transforms, even the way he moves.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a great
There's a few like cut scenes too where it's like even more gruesome. I was reading on the Wikizilla because there's a Wikizilla
uh,
and where it's like I guess one of the forms is like his eye like pops off and like hits things and like he's like when he's in his third form he's like spewing out of his mouth just like acid blood like
oh
it's like all this stuff like that but like back to the first part like as they're watching like the second form go through which is spewing like blood out of its gills which is such a weird thing to watch right it's like
yes.
it's like a monster from like it's like a monster from Monster Hunter. If you ever seen any of those games, like the
Yes.
attack, it looked like that a little bit.
Yeah, I
Um,
can see that.
but yeah, like when so that whole thing where the government's like you're like the parody of like inactiveness of government, right? Like me and Amber when we're watching this because this I had to kind of convince her to watch this movie with me. She does not like Godzilla. Um, and I think this is what intrigued her to stay. Like we were just laughing the entire time. Like I would love to have the pitch for this movie, and like when the director's like, okay, do this movie right, we need 10 different sets with 10 different types of furniture for every meeting room that they go to.
Isn't that like that really is what stands out to me? The first time I watched it, I this is how I got my wife to watch it too. This is like I got like halfway through it and I was like, Kristen, you need to see this movie. It is a Godzilla movie, but you will love it just because of this ridiculous way that the bureaucracy, this complex and like
Yeah.
evasive bureaucracy that can't get anything done in a time of crisis.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you were saying, like this is more of like a critique of all governments and their, things that are so complicated and complex that they fail to do the thing that they're supposed to do.
Well, yeah, you just
And
base it on the past year. Like, I mean, it's just like
right,
we're living
right.
in 2021.
It's a
I mean,
very relevant film still.
seriously. But like the whole thing where they're just like walking to meeting after meeting. It's like, okay, well,
Yes.
we need to have a meeting on this. So let's
Yeah,
go back to
let's
this.
take it to the prime minister. Okay, the prime minister says, oh, let's take it to this office. Yeah, let's go to this office. And then like the meeting room gets bigger and bigger, right?
But then they
And then
go
at the
back to
bottom,
the
like,
meeting room too. They like return
yeah,
to another
let's
one.
let's take this to the action room. Like, okay, let's take this to my ready room. Okay.
All right, we need to have a.
All to ask the same goddamn question. And then when our hero of the film says like he like asks a question or he says something, everyone kind of like stops and looks at him and he's like, who are you addressing? Because he's talking out of order and he's not
Yeah, he's
like
not following the
obeying
procedure.
the like chain of command. He's like, who are you addressing? Because you're
Yeah,
not addressing us.
yeah.
Like that's
But
the
and
implication.
then I love how it's just like they're trying to do PR press conferences all the time, and like it's just like you're in the midst of the thing destroying your city, and you are slowly just like trying to deliver information to the public, but it's like it's happening so drastically fast, like you can't do
Yeah,
it good enough, like because you too many like too many different people to go through, and it just like that whole proliferates through the whole film, and I think that's what makes this movie make sense compared to any other modern day Godzilla movie. Is that there is a progression in the humans a little bit, like they adapt.
yes,
They're like
they too. Yeah,
we need to do this differently because this is definitely not working. Like and it literally destroys the government. Like it puts it in shambles. Like
yep.
because of their
And,
effectiveness.
and literally his atomic breath kills like the president and the cabinet and
Yeah, the
yeah,
prime minister and everything like that. But like,
and all that's left is Yaguchi, who's our main character, Rando Yaguchi, and as as they put it, his ragtag team of bureaucratic rebels. You know,
but that see that was great.
so
I love that. It's like he's like I'm just gonna put
isn't
this.
it?
I put this together because like we need thinkers. We need fluidity. Like we need like it's just a bunch of people working together. It doesn't matter what rank you are. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yes,
Just go
yes.
do it. Like get it done. Like why does it matter who you're talking to? Like
Like really, like putting the best and the brightest in the same room and giving them like, here's a task that you need to accomplish and you need to do it together. It's yeah, it's great. I love like those characters all kind of like work well together. They're all kind of side characters. But I love the older guy with his like towel always around his neck. And
mm-hmm.
he's I think he's the is he the biologist maybe or the but anyways, they all have their own like little eclectic personalities, and you don't have to really even know their names. You kind of just like at a glance, you know what type of person this is,
Well, yeah, you kind of
right?
like
Like
understand
the
like this person's like trying to figure out the rate, like the map that was given by the guy that's on the boat, the whatever
mhm.
the researcher was. The other one's trying to figure out that they're still trying to figure out personality and like its agenda. I can't think of the right word I'm trying to say, but like it's motivation. Like what
It's motivation. Yeah, yeah,
like it's like and you have like the lady who I think was like didn't they like they couldn't find a good biologist, so they just got one that was like out of grad school just to just
yes. And I love
so,
her like deadpan affect all the time. Like she's just like and that's a very like identifiable character. She's always behind a computer and like kind of looking, and then she's like, "Yeah, I found it. Yep, here's the incredibly hard answer you were looking for. Here, right here." Like she's like that character, and then like Rando himself, and then I really like the American
yes,
ambassador to
very I love
Japan.
her. She is
She like
great.
I was like, this is a real fantasy movie though, because at the end she was just like, yes, and someday I too will
Oh my God.
run for president. I was like,
That's
damn. I'm like
well
looking at it now. I'm
that's
like,
funny because that's showing
good
like
luck.
that's like you gotta think when was this movie filmed, right? It was filmed when Obama was still president,
2015. Yeah,
and
yeah.
like they did not know where this country was going in 2016. And
No, no, they did not.
I said at the end of the movie to Amber too, like they definitely didn't know where America was. Like seriously, she's gonna become president at 40. That's what she said. That's
Like the age is one factor in all of this,
yeah.
but like the fact that you were the ambassador to Japan, you really think
Like,
this?
did the Japanese know that you can't become president until you're 35 in the United States?
It's just funny thinking about it. It's like you really what is it, underestimated the the power of ignorance in this country. It's like, sorry, Shin
Yeah, but
Godzilla. I know you had.
I
I know
can't
you thought we were gonna improve.
I can't give him too much crap on that because we do so many horrible like misinterpretations of other countries in our Hollywood films.
Oh, of
So yeah,
course,
you know
of
it's always
course.
bad. But I do love the American presence in this film. It's always weird seeing like Americans in a foreign
Y-
film. You know,
yeah,
it's like it throws you
and
off a little
hearing them
bit.
talk.
Yeah,
I like after the first bomber wing is destroyed, the two other bomber wings are talking to each other. It's like, we'll go in and we'll get him this time. Time for some payback.
yep,
Yes,
yes, payback.
payback. And I'm like, what? I'm like, it's funny to me because it's like that's a parody, not a parody, but that's them trying to imitate Americans. And I'm like, yeah, you're pretty spot on. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah, because they
Pretty
all
good.
that's the thing. Like they all sound. I mean, they get some good people to play the Americans. But I love the ambassador. Like I love her her role in this whole thing. Like she's like I'm trying to help my grandma's country, and
Hmm.
like, but like and when she like goes from like English to Japanese, it's like it's so like oh, it's so weird. You know, it's like it's so I love when they talk when Japanese people talk English. It's
Hmm.
like it's such a drastic change in tone and delivery from
Yeah,
like
it's
their
a,
normalness, right? The normal conversation, like just them acting normally, but when they go to English, it's a very different way of expressing, right?
yeah, it's not like somebody going from Spanish to English where you're still kind of dealing with the same sounds and the same kind of like pacing of speech.
Yep.
It's a completely different language. So yeah, it is kind of jarring when they go back and forth. But I like that. I think you and I have seen enough Japanese media that we're kind of
Yeah.
used to that
Yeah.
shift.
Well, it happens
But it
it
is
happens in
funny seeing it in
anime all
live
the
action
time.
and
Yeah.
not anime.
Yeah, it's way different in live action because like you have the body language too. Like almost like their body language changes too. Like when they do the shift. But no, I
Hmm.
love the government transition, and I like how it does bring to a culmination. You know, I know we're kind of jumping around the movie, which I think is fine for this, but it does
Yeah.
kind of go to this like kind of culmination of like the cheesy battle with Godzilla at the end. You know what I mean? Like it kind of like they have to result to that cheesiness to win, which is like it's still smart, but it is still cheesy looking at the same time. And that was I think I was reading some quotes from the director Anno Hideki. He was trying to keep it as like close to the original as possible. That's why he wanted like Godzilla to almost have this rubber looking
Hmm.
feel to it. Like he actually I was reading it um, for a lot of the Godzilla action, even though it was CGI, still had an actor mocap it to kind of
Yeah, I did.
to kind of represent because he was trying to push for somebody in a bodysuit again. Like he wanted that to happen still.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he wanted to. He wanted it to be as close as almost an homage to the
Yeah,
original, but like he had a
that's
compromise
funny.
with the studio, and I mean I'm kind of glad they didn't do another bodysuit because but he does a good job because you got like the kind of silly kind of like googly eye things that happen. Like he has the weird eyes, and just
Oh,
some of the shots just look like somebody in a suit, but it's obviously CGI. You know, it's the I love the take of this version of Godzilla. It's like it's
mhm.
different enough where it's like sort of like off putting, but yet you start to understand it and it teaches you what this Godzilla version is versus the one you grew up knowing and loving. But yet still keeps it the same. You know, it's such a weird take on it, and the movie is really good. The more I sit it, But the one thing I will say, I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit.
No, it's
Um,
good.
but there's a
Good
lot of
rambling.
dialogue in this movie. It's a hard.
Mhm.
It's almost hard to wrap your brain around. It's like there's a lot of talking. It's like it's like almost like, even when there's action, there's just continuous talking. It's just like
Mhm.
it's like Jesus. Like there's so much information here. It's like they really had to like either they think this out, or they just kept talking just so you didn't have to think. I don't know which one it was. Like, but it's
There's something to be said about that. It's like if we give them so much information, they don't have time to process it. So just as like a shorthand, we'll just start like nodding our heads, like okay,
yeah.
okay, like we get it.
And I'm sure
But
because it's a translation, it's hard because I'm trying to read, not necessarily listen. Maybe if it was like in in English, it would be easier to comprehend and follow. But like because I'm trying to read the subtitles at the same time as watch action, it's like it sort of was a
it,
lot. It was really fast.
it's different too because they're using almost like a different language than we're used to hearing too of Japanese, and that we're it's a lot of like bureaucratic language,
Yeah.
right? So it's a lot of like exchanges that we would normally not see like in an anime or even just like a regular subtitled Japanese movie. Like the other day I was watching Yojimbo and I was surprised, like I was like wow, this is like a remarkably like pared down movie. There's not a whole lot of dialogue,
Yep.
and when it is, it's very meaningful, so you're really like paying attention to what they're saying, what the characters are saying to each other. And then like thinking about this, it's just like yeah, it's a mile a minute, like information
But
overload.
I think that's the point too. It's like they're doing all this talking, but there is no meaning behind any of it. You know
Yeah,
what I
and
mean?
not until they're actually doing something does the talking matter, when they're
Yep.
like the group together is all like working together.
I
You know,
gotta.
when you were saying about the bodysuit, or
Yeah.
go ahead,
No, but I gotta
you're,
say, like about the bureaucracy thing, it's just like where you got the chain of command, where they're in like the war room, and it's just like you got the military calling one guy, okay, we're ready to fire, we're ready to
that's what I
fire,
want.
we're ready to
I'm so
fire,
glad you brought it up.
we're ready to
Yep,
fire, and then the guy's
just
like,
to shoot
okay,
one goddamn bullet, like
but then the guy like leans forward, like, okay, sir, okay, we are ready to fire, and then the lady next to him's like, okay, sir, we're ready to fire. Do you want to
yep.
authorize? Yes, authorize. It's like, just
And,
like,
like I love it because the prime minister does that, like I authorize force, and like it's like okay, all right, finally shoot. It doesn't work. It's like perfect. It's so perfect.
Alright,
That's
go to
exactly
the new
how things
meeting room.
happen.
Make sure we have reclining chairs this time. Let's go.
So I will say, like I'm thinking about this like in a more modern context, even more modern than 2016. The different forms of Godzilla could be like the different strains of the
Oh
coronavirus.
God.
It just keeps evolving to like.
Oh man, there's
But anyway,
so many
and we keep
variants.
reacting slowly, like, all right, authorize the vaccine. It's like it's already made 3 new strains.
All right,
Shit. Like,
reinforce mask mandates.
so I wanted to mention when you were talking about him wanting the Godzilla actor to be, yeah, instead of just doing the motion capture to just to be in a bodysuit. I think you're really onto something with that, because they do that in the movie, and in the original they show Godzilla. They don't show him all that much in the original, right? Like any monster movie, like early monster movie, because of the rubber suit, because of the limitations of the technology and like the special effects and makeup and all that, they tend to show those things less, or like to frame them better. Kind of like the scary thing that you can't see completely clearly, like the first Alien movie, for example. It's much scarier being chased by this unknown thing, or this crazy thing, and when you do see it, it makes it all the more terrifying. And I think that's what they were trying to go for a little bit with this. Not so much like they're not showing him, but they are like keeping to the same kind of rigid movements. And this is what a creature who just was in the sea a couple days ago, this is what it would look like if it was
Yep,
walking on land, if it just learned how to do this, you know?
yep, yep.
But
Well,
so I just got to ask you, well, okay,
the evolutions help with
go
that,
ahead.
right? Because like it almost modernizes that formula of like not showing the monster, but like okay, what is he gonna do next, sort of a thing. That's the scary part. Like this, I wouldn't call this a scary movie, but like there's some like scary things that it does, like when you get to that fourth form, right? When he's like that fourth, like he literally looks like the Predator. Like he has like the face of the Predator,
Oh,
like with the
yeah.
mouth like opening up like
Oh, when
that.
he does, yeah, yeah.
It's like
That's the
it's so like
crazy.
it's so just like again like you're used to like Godzilla maybe shooting a blast out of his mouth or doing something like that, but when he does it in this one, it is a little bit more scarier, I guess. When I say, I'm using that word loosely, because it's different. You're not
Yeah,
ready for it, and
exactly.
it's almost like it's like, oh, that's not Godzilla. That's not what he's supposed to. But like it scares you because it's almost like ruining the character maybe you grew up with a little bit too. It's like, what's wrong with his mouth? It's like
Well, when like okay, I was gonna ask you a couple things like in this time when the huge scale battles and destruction are just like about in every like monster movie or movie these days. It feels like, but and a lot of that like action just kind of like rolls off of us now. That was the problem with King of the Monsters. It's just like, what the hell is happening? Why is it happening? Why do I care? But like, there are a lot of scenes in this movie that just like stand out to me. They happen to be scenes where there's destruction a lot of the time, but one of the bigger set pieces for me is what you were just describing, is when he uses the atomic laser for the first time, or his atomic breath.
the music helps with
Because
that too, by the way.
like, oh my god,
Yeah.
yes, like, and by the way, that's a song about Godzilla from the perspective of Godzilla.
Oh.
Like, it's, if you read the lyrics, because I have, of course, it's like, if I die in this world, who will know? Who will mourn me? I wear a void.
I wonder if Godzilla does have friends. Like, does he? Maybe he wants friends. Maybe that's why he's there. He's just trying to make friends.
And as he's like about to do the atomic breath, this is like, as long as breath courses through me, I can do, like, I can fight back. But anyway, that whole sequence, it's just the attention to detail in this movie is what really is something that's really admirable. So before he does his atomic breath, you could see like his eyes, right? He first starts like what looks like throwing up black smoke,
Mm-hmm.
right? That kind of like just spreads through the city, and you're like, whoa, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Then you see his eye, and it shows like one of his eyelids getting a protective cover over it,
Yep.
like a
I
reflective
I
cover,
have a list
and
of
then
all
it
of his abilities here.
ignites it, and
Yep.
you see just like a firestorm going through Tokyo, and then that eventually focuses into that laser that that just like destroys stuff. And it's the original sound of the atomic breath. I will say that
Yep.
that noise, you could probably tell. You're like, I know that sound.
They use the original roar from the original film too,
Mm-hmm.
at one point, and then they use other roars from later films as well.
Yeah,
But no, it's that whole sequence is pretty nuts. Like, I was just
yeah,
like, it's weird because it's like it looks awesome. It looks CGI. It doesn't look. It doesn't. It's CGI, but it doesn't look
yeah.
CGI because the way the animation works, and it kind of feels like how it would be like almost claymation-y, or how they may have done it at one point in an older film. But yet it's all modernized because of the effects of like the lasers and so
Mm-hmm.
forth like that. But yeah,
It
it all
it
looks
is
amazing.
weird. It does, because it does kind of look like models, like scale models, and it's CGI at the same time. No,
Mm-hmm.
that's good. That's, and yeah, when his mouth splits like that, I remember thinking like, I had the same reaction. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Then it's like, okay, like it's just another adaptation to protect his mouth and to
Yeah,
allow this like thing to happen. This is what's going, this is what's going to
and
happen. Ugh,
it makes the effects
chilling.
like more realistic to him being an animal. It's not like, oh, let's make
Yeah,
Godzilla have breath come out of his mouth. Like, well, we're gonna give him a reason, a biological reason of why it can work.
yep.
And
We'll show what happens in his ever evolving body to like to allow him to shoot atomic breath from his gullet. And then he has to cool down though. He got too hot, Justin. He
yeah,
had to cool down.
but then he learns how to cool, himself at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. So, but no, it's
Okay.
the whole path of his evolution is such an amazing thing to talk about. And but then the one thing I'll say finally though is the controversial fifth evolution. Now, have you read about this at all? Do you aware about this?
Read, studied pictures. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um, yeah, because we're kind of winding down here to the end of the film. They propose this giant operation, right, using trains laden with explosions to like wake him up out of this like slumber, his like resting phase, and then try to basically cool him down, right? Try to put like what is it like? All I could think of was like flame retardant from like a fire extinguisher. Is like they're just pumping him full of that stuff. and they get enough of it, and they manage to stop him. But
That
like,
battle is awesome. Like I gotta
yeah,
say,
it is. That's a classic like humans fighting Godzilla or a
yep,
kaiju
yep,
from like the 60s and 70s movie. So that like,
yeah, because
as you were saying before, that's
it
like a
because it
real
looked kind of
callback
ridiculous
to
with
that.
all the coolant trucks coming in, right? And I'm like, it's like he's like at the
Yes,
dentist or
and they're all
something. That's what I thought. It looks like he's going to the dentist. It's
I
like,
know, right? It was like they got all their straws into his mouth. Like I thought that was excellent. But when it by that point in the movie though, like you're like, who cares? Like this is awesome.
yeah,
Like they're gonna win. Like they figured it out.
yep. But I love the
Um
train bombs. That was good. Like shoot it with
yes.
train bombs.
Yes, like a series of commuter
We're having
trains.
train bombs. All right.
Yep.
Get this thing to happen. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh,
And like
so
the little motivational speech, like when they're all in the masks and stuff, like that whole thing, when they're like they're all like in their like HVAC suits, like ready to fight. Like it just like made me think of old school Godzilla movies, like easily.
yes.
It's like it was so good. Um, but yeah, like the controversial fifth evolution.
Hmm.
Like I was that's what I was doing before waiting for your call today because I mean I just watched this a few days ago and I was just like, oh, research this a little bit. I had no clue about this. I knew the ending. Like I knew there was this kind of weird like ending shot of like the end of his tail with some kind of creatures or humanoids that are coming out of it and so forth like
Hmm.
that. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. What's the sequel about? What is this? I don't understand. Like I just sort of like took it as like I don't get it. But then I started searching for clips of just like the highlights of the movie, like the atomic breath, just to rewatch them. And then I see this guy did a whole like 20-minute video explaining about this tale in the fifth
Yeah.
evolution, and like he goes like throughout the whole movie showing how like that final shot is nowhere to be seen in the entire movie until the very end. Like he's
Yep.
trying to explain like everyone thinks that the mouth is there when the laser's being shot. Like there's a mouth at the end of that tail.
Yeah, there is.
It's so disturbing. Uh,
Yeah, you see, like it's so weird because they're planting the seeds from the very beginning, like that his tail is kind of sentient. Like that's the first thing that you see of him coming out of the ocean,
yeah,
and then like later on, you always see it kind of like flapping back and forth. And then when he does the atomic laser, yeah, like it comes out of his tail too. It's not like he's pooping the laser out.
yeah.
It's like coming out of his mouth, coming out of there. That's a second mouth.
Yeah, like
But
the
go on, go
but
on.
I
What
mean,
else?
I'm just sort of relaying to what I learned from this video, and then I read some articles and things like that. But like I guess in from what I want to bring up, if you look at the original artwork and like the original like creative like decisions, is that they actually had like an idea of a Godzilla climbing out of a Godzilla to have two
Hmm.
Godzillas. So like that's sort of where like, but they didn't end up doing it. It was sort of not like allowed. But then they also had a drawing of this like humanoid like kaiju or Godzilla that could have been happening as well. So there's a lot of like weird things that could be coming in a sequel. Which, sequel wise, I mean, I'd be all for a sequel, sure. Like
Yes,
give
yes.
me this Godzilla fighting another monster. That's the one thing I guess maybe I felt lacking. That's the wrong word, but like I was hoping for. I like Godzilla fighting things.
Oh, you want to see him fight another thing?
Yeah, like
I don't think that's what it would be though, Justin, because that ending shot with the tail and what look like humanoids coming out of it. Um, I think many people I think they also kind of allude to it a little bit in the movie um, when they find like a piece of his like dorsal fin or whatever, like one of his like, and they're like, this piece on its own is trying to propagate itself. It's trying to make more Godzillas right now, and they start like theorizing. He's like, there's nothing if left unchecked. There's nothing that would stop this thing from developing wings so it could fly around the
yeah, I
world.
remember that
Like
part too. Yeah,
that's like that was like kind of like the I think connected to the ending because you see all those humanoids coming out. It's not just one, it's a bunch. And it's like, oh, one Godzilla can't defeat humanity because humanity can bind together and defeat Godzilla. But if there were many Godzillas, then humanity wouldn't stand a chance. So the thought of like human sized or sort of, maybe a little bit bigger than humans in like Godzilla form is terrifying, right? Like that's even worse.
Well, and I
But
think
that would be like the evolutionary next step.
well,
You know,
that's the
how do I
idea.
defeat
Is
how
that
do I defeat this hostile threat?
people were he was like kind of what I was reading and stuff across things is that the reason why it's humanoid is because he was defeated by humans, so therefore his
Mm-hmm.
evolution is to become the thing that defeated him.
Yeah,
So,
to borrow its characteristics. Yeah, like oh, that's what survives in this world. Okay, we'll take that because evolution doesn't like care about it doesn't care about anything. It's like well, how do I survive? How do I keep going? And yeah, that would be yeah. Ugh. Those small skeletal humanoids are really freaky, and they have like Godzilla's teeth and the plates like on his back, like his spikes. Oh, so it's like a real like near miss, like it almost happened, like these things almost were unleashed, and they
but
just
but what's
like
interesting is that
literally
you
as
don't.
they're spitting the coagulant into him, they're trying to get out, like
But that's
and
interesting. Like that's the video I watched, and maybe if you actually follow the film, that last shot is nowhere in the film until the last shot. Even the shot right before it, you have the our hero Rondo, I can't remember his name, Yaguchi or whatever.
yeah, I think it's
And then you
Yaguchi.
have the ambassador, right? They're kind of
Yes.
like they're chatting with each other, and
Yeah,
she's saying
that
just
feels like the end of the movie. Yeah.
and she's saying I'm gonna become president someday. And
Yeah.
but in the background, there's Godzilla. Like he's in the very far part. You look at his tail, no evolution's happening. It's the normal rounded tail. But then
Oh,
it cuts to him with that new tail. So the guy in the video I watched, I guess I should give him credit. It's like MD 1954 or something like that. He
hey, that was the year the first Godzilla movie
Yeah,
came out.
exactly.
Nice.
And he was saying like how there must be a jump in time between that last shot and when he was frozen because when he's frozen
Oh,
there was no there isn't necessarily a head yet. It's not like it's not that final shot. You
yeah.
know, that's sort of what his opinion was. I mean, because it's all theory, right?
Was that they were still trying to get out in the process of being frozen or being, like cooled off, and I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
like cool.
I think they're trying to come out still. Like they didn't get stopped. I think that's something that
Oh.
is slowly happening. It's taking a long time because he's technically frozen.
Oh, so if you look at it from that perspective, then it's like the problem isn't neutralized, even though it feels like it is for now, even though all this damage, all this terrible stuff, and Godzilla is still right there. But it's like, okay, we've neutralized the problem for now. Like,
Yep.
that's it. And the problem when it comes back will be worse unless we address it.
Yep.
I see. I see. So, some real critique of humanity here. I like it. I like
Well,
it. A little bit.
and
A
that's
little bit
like sort
more
of
than I
what like
thought
I
there.
think like his whole thing with Yaguchi there. If he ever came back, he's going to make a better government that could handle this kind of threat again.
Mm, yep.
So that's the progression of the humans I like, which I think is why this movie really works in the long run. Is
Oh,
what?
yeah. No, I was just remembering I don't know her name, the actress who plays the future president of the United States there, the Japanese
I mean, I
ambassador.
would be okay with her being my president. Like that'd be
Hell
fun.
yeah.
Let's get her.
Can we do a hashtag be my president? Um, after
Is
she
the
like
actor?
at the end of that conversation, she says like because remember America had like a countdown for
Yep.
when they were just going to
Yeah.
nuke Japan again. And she said like as soon as Godzilla moves, that countdown starts again. So that's like where we kind of leave it. It's like it's not really like a happy ending. It's not really like a we won ending. It's
They
like
just stalled
we
it, right?
managed to stop it for now, but it's gonna come back. Like, and if it does, if anything, you've just delayed the inevitable.
Okay, so I looked up the actress's age
Yeah.
of
How old was she?
she currently is 34 years old right now. So
So close.
so close to
So
becoming
close.
president. But it could still happen. I mean, she's not an American citizen, so I don't know if it's gonna work out. But like, I think we can maybe make some changes to allow it.
I'm more concerned with the government in Tokyo, I guess, at this point. I hope that they figure it out.
But what But I guess they can't make a sequel to this movie until now. Like I was reading about this, so I guess because of the other movies they agreed to make with Legendary Pictures, which is King of Monsters and whatnot,
Yeah,
any kind of sequel for this wouldn't it can't happen.
can't
Uh,
happen until like there's got to be like a period of a break.
well, they had to wait till after this movie released. Technically, Godzilla versus Kong, which technically was supposed to come out last year, but now it
Yeah.
just released actually yesterday.
Yep.
But and so maybe we might get a sequel. But I guess
I hope so.
what's his name is it doesn't won't come back for it though. Hideki Anno.
He won't come back for it.
Yeah, he. I
But
don't.
you said he's doing like a bunch of Evangelion stuff. Like,
Well,
come on,
yeah,
dude,
sure, but
just come
like
back.
no, but I guess I think the way the quote that I see is that he would rather have a different director's take on it would be more interesting. But I think there was like some friction between him and the studio. The way
Well,
he phrased it too.
I mean, it must be tough to want to do a movie like this in the midst of like the 2014 Godzilla and then King of the Monsters. And like while they're trying to do this and you try to do your cool Godzilla movie in the meantime, like, yeah, I bet it was really, really tough. And I don't know, maybe he's just saying that for the time being. And
But
even if we don't ever get a sequel,
the other director's
even
all
if we
for
don't
it.
ever get a sequel,
He's all for it.
this movie like will remain one of my favorite Godzilla movies just because of how memorable it was, how it was able to basically take the same formula of the 1954 movie and make it seem not stale and like an old Godzilla movie. It had something to say, and it was like critiquing not only environmental problems and nuclear problems, but also governmental problems and human nature and you know, how do you defeat human beings? You keep them separated, but when human
Yeah,
beings
but
band together, they can defeat Godzilla.
it copied the 1996 Godzilla movie though by
It had Hank Azaria in it.
no, I mean what was going to happen at the end of that movie if we didn't stop them? They would have had a bunch of
Oh, that's
mini
right, the
Godzillas
eggs,
run
because
around.
Godzilla's female in that
Yeah,
movie,
yeah.
and she laid a bunch of eggs
In
in
the Madison
what is
Square
it?
Garden.
In was it in Grand Central
No,
or like
Madison
yeah,
Square
under
Garden.
Madison Square Garden? That's right.
That hurt because my dad is a Knicks fan, so I'm just like, oh,
Was
don't
that when your
blow up
dad
the,
walked out? He's
don't
like,
blow 'em
"Oh,
up.
what the hell?
but
She's got all her eggs in there."
but yeah, no,
Just the
I'm
best.
glad that we agreed to do this one because I've been meaning to watch it. It was hard to find. I'm surprised it's streaming anywhere. You had to
I
rent it.
know. For such like a cool movie, like I feel like
It should be
more people
somewhere.
should be.
It should be on HBO
Yeah,
Max with all the other ones because they have all the other old ones on there, right?
right.
So maybe someday. But for now, go rent it. It's definitely worth $3. So easily go
Absolutely.
rent it if you have not seen it. Yeah,
Don't do the thing. Don't watch clips online.
get the
Don't give it
Japanese
away.
version.
Just watch it.
Don't be almost tricked like I was. I was so confused. I'm like you have to either buy the American version or the Japanese version. It doesn't come in both. So it's like
Oh, that's so crazy.
I was
I've
like,
never
I
heard of
almost
that.
got the
Like
wrong
you,
one. I was like, oh man, I would have made that mistake, and I would have to rent it again. I guess.
ugh.
I mean,
You would have watched it. You'd been like, that's all you would have been talking about. Like, I wish I could have just read it in Japanese and heard them talking.
yeah, because I feel like that the ambassador wouldn't work as well what would they have done there? Would they have like had her
She would
talk
have probably done
Japanese
her. I
instead?
hope she would. Yeah, she'd just do her own voice, please.
But no,
Man,
I think this is great. And I love the one thing we didn't talk about too. Just the one thing to add is like it's like how the rest of the country just like sends its best wishes. It's like it's like they have to like do like bartering and stuff with like the French to like delay the countdown a little bit longer and all this stuff.
yes, yes,
It's like it's all like political. It's like I love how just
yeah.
Japanese just like grows a pair at the end. It's like Japanese always like bowing their heads to the rest of the world because of literally because of World War II. It just seems like that's like the kind of another thing of it too. It's like they're always just like, okay, world, we'll do this. Okay, world, we'll do that. But it's like
Yeah,
they're just like, no, this is our problem. We're gonna take care of ourselves.
we're gonna solve it ourselves. Yeah.
And
No, and
I love
there
that.
were people that read this movie as being like kind of patriotic too, and kind of defending the Japan security forces. I think it's the self-defense forces, but they, it's definitely like a look what we can accomplish when we're not mired down in bureaucracy. Like look what we can do. We can handle a giant monster coming from the sea if we can cut down, if we can break down certain barriers and give people a chance to work together.
So
I don't know. There's like the biggest theme in this movie is like fear and also hope. Like you have, I don't know, they're balanced pretty well.
Yeah.
And if we don't ever get a sequel, I'll be okay because this is a good film.
Yep.
We have this.
No. But I was laughing though because I was remembering the whole like origami scene where they realized it's the whole like piece of paper that the guy left was just an origami, and then it was like
yes, to
like,
figure it out, they had to fold it. It was like, who is this mastermind?
Like, where is this guy
leaving behind?
Like the guy,
he's just dead.
The guy
he's dead right
watching
at the beginning.
DM 1954. He was like saying how he thinks that could be like Goro, like the researcher. Like he's fused with them somehow. Because like, where is that guy? Where did he go? Like, he find his boat and it's like just shoes there. It's like...
yeah, like just the. It's such a weird beginning too. The name of the ship is like the Goro Maru as well too, something like that. Like that was like kind of a callback as well. But no, it's a great flick. It's fun, it's interesting, and it visually stunning. Some of those scenes, man, I still think about them.
Yeah.
Long after I've seen the movie, but definitely great cinematography. So yeah. This has been really fun doing a bonus episode. It's been a while.
Yep. We should do another one this month.
Yes, we should.
This is for last month, but anyways. This has been Playing Favorites.
I'm Paul.
I'm Justin.
Ta-ta.